turn this around. Oh, okay. And then I'm going to close the door. Whoops. Oh, whoa. Hello. Oh, goodness. Oh, Lord. Sorry, y'all. Get to see out my back window. Wait. And down my shirt as I'm trying to get my tripod back attached again. Oh, probably making you guys dizzy. Okay, there we go. Oi. And now I can't see. See, this is the less than perfect situation with going live on YouTube. Something went wrong. Try again. There we go. There we are. Okay, let me go. Hey, Jenny Lynn, thank you. I'm glad you're here, and I apologize for flashing my backyard and down my shirt. Let me go close the door. All right. Oi. Okay, I'm back. Here we are. And I'm going to have to wait until I can see me sitting back down to see if. And welcome to my messy studio. But you know what? I'm just trying to keep it real for you guys. So, all right, let's see if I can adjust this. There we are. If you can't hear me, of course, then you can't know. Anyway, if you can hear me type something, let me know, because I'm sure you guys will tell me if the sound's not right. I'm still working out the new lavalier mic. So, anyway, welcome. Hello. I'm a little early, mostly because I was trying to get the video set up. But now it is. And here we are. So, yay! All right. So, if you get my newsletter, you'll know that I wrote a big diatribe about my thoughts on textile waste. Yay! Thank you, Jenny. My thoughts on textile waste and fast fashion. I know it's having its moment now. I think there's been a lot of awareness, but I mean, straight up, when I look in the stores at clothing, like if I go to the mall and go to the department store, I am appalled at how much the fabric and the quality of clothes has changed. And maybe that's because, my mom's side of the family were all seamstresses. And there is a certain quality to the stitch that, like handmade clothing, we would do anywhere from like 10 to 12 stitches per inch, and then 8 stitches per inch, 6 to 8 stitches per inch was considered a basting stitch. Well, nowadays, if you look at the inside of garments, I mean, I've seen garments stitched in something that was wider than a basting stitch, and this stuff is meant to fall apart because they want you to buy more clothes. That and the plastics that end up in the clothing. And if the clothing is falling apart faster, that means more plastics in the form of acrylic and microfiber and nylon ends up a polyester. Oh my God, the resurgence of polyester makes my skin crawl. Ends up in, so all of that fiber, if it's a fast fashion and meant to be disposable, then that ends up in the landfill. Anyway, off my soapbox. So it seems like it's harder and harder to find like natural clothing, cotton, linen, silk, even wool, that's not really expensive. I mean, clothing's expensive. Hell, even, the microfiber stuff, some of that's really expensive. So, I've been doing a lot of thrift shopping. I found myself going to the thrift stores more and more looking for the fabrics. Now, granted, I'm a big girl. So finding stuff to fit me is a challenge too. So I've been doing a lot of altering stuff, trying to reimagine either clothes that don't fit me anymore, but the fabric's still good, my favorites, or stuff that I find at the thrift store that might be too small that I can harvest the fabric off of and make some new stuff. Anyway, anyway, so there's that. So I've been doing a lot more sewing, and it also kind of dovetails with the weaving in a way because weaving width, I don't have a big 45-inch loom. And I find actually I get better creative textures in a skinnier loom. I know I have a gazillion videos of me weaving on my little samplet. And it's because it's so much easier to see the composition of the textures in a smaller format. Now, granted, I do have an art weaving on my floor loom, and if you follow my Instagram, I have a picture of my recent project that's on the loom now using the hand dyed warp. And even that, it's a little bit of a challenge to play with such a big canvas. I mean, it's so much easier if I'm doing it on a smaller piece. But that being said, people think, well, that's such a small piece. I mean, I only need so many scarves. And I agree. Yes, you only need so many scarves. But piecing that fabric together or mixing it with other fabrics is also a solution. And it might be a really good solution. Now, stick with me for a minute here. So I have tons of like little test pieces. This I believe is from the this sample is from the wool dreads class that I have. Um, and if you don't know about that, that's on Teachable. I'll put a link below when I finally update the description. So anyway, so I have this piece here. And granted, yes, this piece would be kind of neat, I think, in like a little pouch. But what if I, wove in these ends and this became, and I might cut this off or find a way to do something with that. And this became like a panel in a jumper, right? Have some fabric coming down below, some fabric coming up to create the straps. I don't know if you can see. Wait, let me tilt this down. Just a hair. Oh, maybe not. See, I'm afraid if I tilt it down, it's going to fall off and make you guys dizzy. Anyway, so yeah. So things like that. Or I've got another piece. Where'd the other piece go? Where'd the other piece go? Oh, I don't see it here. Anyway, so yeah, little pieces like that. I had another piece of weaving and now I don't know where it is. Okay, so that being said, so piecing together fabric, I've kind of come to think about that a lot in terms of weaving smaller pieces because that seems to help my creativity. But then how would I use it? Because honestly, I mean, would you want a full garment of this? That might be too much. I mean, I'm short. So sometimes busy like this on a short frame doesn't work. But smaller pieces of it works great. So that's how I've gotten to the point of like piecing stuff together. And I find that fabric store, like the natural fabrics, going back to the I hate plastic fabrics, natural fabrics are really expensive. I mean, I love linen. I've got, this linen dress on right now. I need to shift this just a little bit. I've got this linen dress on right now. And this was a thrifted dress. I got this on Poshmark. It's usually an expensive dress, but I found it for cheap on Poshmark. I love Poshmark. Poshmark's probably dangerous for me. All right, let's see that I've lowered it a little too much. I'm gonna raise it up just a hair. There we go. Okay, so I've been thrifting fabric, and it's not like I can go to the thrift store and be guaranteed to find some good cotton fabric, because even like if I'm looking at sheets, there's a lot of polyester and microfiber in those sheets. So I I kind of make it a regular habit to go there and check stuff out. Um, I'm also in the process of like piecing together um some layers for lag and look. And what lag and look is, if you're not familiar, it's where they layer the different clothing. It's kind of like there's designers, Tina Givens, Bluefish, who is Jennifer Barclay. She's been doing this since the 80s. Um, Magnolia Pearl, she's having a moment. Although some of her stuff is a little too ruffly for me. I mean, big ruffles in somebody my size sometimes can look like a, I don't even know, like a, it too fluffy. So, but I do like some ruffles. It just needs to be not so much. So I've been working with, also, as well as finding fabrics to add to this type of thing, but also to work in layers for the lag and look, and specifically like slips. Now this, you can see this underdress that I have on here, is a dress that had this layer, this slip layer underneath it. And I took the slip layer out because I layer it anyway and I don't need this extra layers. But what I want to do is take some remnant fabrics. And now this is the type of thing I find at the thrift store, like little handkerchiefs. I find bits of cotton lace like this. This, I don't even know what this is, but it's this beautiful cotton batiste-like fabric, and I love the red stitching on it. I'll probably end up cutting it up, but then making ruffles for the bottom of this to extend the length a little bit so it can be like an underslip. So that's some of the things that oh, here's the other piece that I'm working on for that. Now, like, take a look at this piece. This, like this one, same width, which is almost a perfect empire waistline for me. So what if I took this and then took something like, started doing some collage type stuff like this doily. Now I know this doily has a stain, but what if I went over that stain with some embroidery to make, I could even do it like that, over this stain with some embroidery and make it like a little design detail, or put a button on there and just do a fiber collage. And that would just have to be really simple. And then you turn around and take something like a sheet and make the rest of the jumper. So yeah, that's the type of thing I'm playing with there, and figuring out ways to incorporate some of this art weaving into clothing that's not good, that's going to be something that I want to wear. Now, if I had, I kind of like it's something like this. It's simple enough where I think that if I had a bigger amount of fabric, I could make like a beautiful duster or or a bolero. Now, for me, I don't like a standard cardigan size. I like it to be either extreme short as a bolero or extremely long like a duster. But to not not this, to for it to be an accent over some other kind of cloth. I don't think I would want this to be like a full-on dress and that be it, or a full-on top and that be it. I think I would want this to have just be a layer over something, but that's kind of a personal choice for me, because I feel like when this is contrasted against like a plain fabric, then there's something about it that stands out a little bit more. Um, and so that's, but I think that's a personal preference. Okay, back to the thrift haul. So I, as I mentioned before, I happen to live in North Carolina, and that used to be a textile hub uh, not too long ago. I mean, a lot of the mills, when I first moved here in the early 2000s, the last of some of those textile mills were being shut down and moved overseas. And it was interesting because you could also find auctions where you could buy lots of fiber equipment. I know that I had at one point been looking at skein winders, industrial skein winders, because those were being shipped overseas with the equipment, but a lot of times they wouldn't break up lots. It's like you can get the skein winder if you buy, like, the large garage size dyeing vat, which no. Anyway, but a lot, so back to the thrift store, a lot of times the fibers would end up in the thrift store, the cones of yarn and stuff like that. So I have found things like this. This is a thrift store find. Yeah. And now granted, I mean, it's not, I mean, that would be terrible for knitting. I mean, maybe some lace knitting, but and I don't know that it's strong enough to be a warp. It might be. It's probably, I don't know. I wouldn't make this the only warp, but this is great for uh weaving sections. I mean, this is wonderful. This was, wait, let's see how much. This was $4. $4. Yeah. So, I find stuff like this all the time. Oh, even stuff like this. This is interesting. I'm not loving the color, but up against the off-white or something, it's great. It's got this like little bacle texture. This was $2. Yeah. Let's see what else I've got here. This was $2. This is some kind of cotton, which is awesome. I've got this. This has got some tears across the top. This is rayon and flax, and it was a mill-in. I got it at or maybe it wasn't a mill-in. No, it says it's a mill-in. Rayon and flax. I got this at Earth Guild years ago. So, but this, I've used this a lot. This is a great one. So yeah, I'm lucky enough to find that. I mean, those are great. Hey, I don't know English. I'm Japanese, but watch your YouTube live always. Hey, love your artwork. Oh, thank you, Caffeine. I really appreciate that. I'm I I wonder if YouTube will translate. I don't know Japanese. If I did, I would say hello in Japanese. So anyway, so some of the fabrics that I've been finding. Now, I did show you this. This is just a cotton sheet. I mean, and it might not be great for some stuff, but it would be good for, I mean, it might be good for like a fitted dress. It's a little thicker than what I would want for like a blouse or something, but or it might even be good for like a pair of comfortable pants. I don't know. But I also have the skills to dye things. So as I'm doing these patching projects, like if I did this and made a dress out of this and maybe added some patches of some of these handkerchief type stuff that I find as ruffles or whatever, then what I might do is then turn around and over dye it. I would make sure that the fibers, like these would all be plant fibers. I probably wouldn't put any wool or animal fibers with this, but if it was cotton, linen, rayon, hemp, or even silk. Silk will work. Silk kind of straddles between plant fibers and protein fibers. So you can dye silk either with plant dyes or wool dyes. But if I were to put these two together, I would either like eco dye over it or do some kind of ice dyeing or some kind of dyeing that would kind of meld all these colors together. So it may look patchy here, but when you do the over dyeing, then it kind of pulls it all together. And that's a good way to, I have a quick point. I'll hop back on if you're still live. If not, I will catch the rest on the replay. Okay, Jenny Lynn, I'll be here probably, or you can just catch the replay. Anyway, so this is one I got the other day. This is it it feels like it's more like a cotton linen, which is awesome. If not, it's just a heavy cotton. But this is a good, like, solid fabric. It's I think it's a tablecloth. So this would make a good, like, heavy layer. This would make a good skirt or some pants, um, or apron or coveralls type of thing. And there's enough for it to be one huge piece, or I can add some other fabric if not. I also find um, things like this. This I would just wear straight out. This is a linen top. It's a little small on me, but look at, I mean, the details. You don't get details like this in a lot of clothing anymore. And this is a J. Jill. So so I kind of almost hate to cut this up, even though the linen is absolutely gorgeous on this. But we'll see. So yeah, we'll see. I'm not 100% sure what I'll do with that. This isn't interesting now, but granted, if I wear this, it makes me look naked because this is almost the same color as my skin. See, yeah. But it's this wonderful dotted Swiss in a cotton, which is unusual fabric, and I like the shearing here. So if I don't like the fit on this, then I'll do something to alter it, and I will probably over dye this because it's just too close to my skin color. Okay, so one of the things too about what I find in the thrift stores, I happen to live in a community that has a huge Indian population. Um, and by Indian, I mean not Native American, I mean from India. There's a huge Indian population here where I live. And so the thrift stores, I will find stuff like this, or look at this. Look. I mean, I even find things like this. Look at this. Look, I mean, this is, I believe this is silk. I mean, but look, I mean, it looks like it would fit a small child. But this is like absolutely, the textile on this is just amazing. So I'm trying to find a way to upcycle that. And then whatever these strips that I come up with, I can also use, like the back side has no embellishments on it. So I can make strips out of this back side and use that in the weaving like I would a sari ribbon. But this is amazing. This is the type of stuff I find in the thrift store. But it wasn't just this jacket. It was the jacket and the skirt and and the scarf. This whole set, $12. $12. Yeah, that's what we find in the thrift stores. We also have tons of this really beautiful light Indian cotton, and I love this stuff. I mean, I have one of these things, and it's all this stuff is like block printed, and this is a sample of what those blocks look like. But I use this for clay. You can see it has like clay dust on it. But this is great. This one didn't fit me very well either, but if you read last week's newsletter, I'm collecting a lot of this Indian cotton to upcycle into a cantha quilt. And I'll put a link to what the cantha quilts are. There's a company called Cantha Bay. I love their clothes. And they use upcycled textiles like this. But yeah, there's tons of this stuff. I mean, here's some of this one. This is a dress from Vietnam. But these are all great. This is the type of stuff that I find at the thrift stores, because I've got this huge Indian population near me. I found this one. This is a great skirt too. And these skirts are really well made. Oh, this is Liz Claiborne. So much for that. But yeah, this is cute. But this, I think, matches, the fabric's great. And I will, if this doesn't fit me, then I'll just harvest that fabric. But I did find this one. This is a great one. This is Max, made in India. And this has this great edging. And it's way too long for me, but it's also not wide enough in the waist. So what I'm going to do is move the waist down and then turn this into a pair of harem pants and then use the leftovers in my Indian project, my Cantha quilt project. So, but so I'll just put like an elastic waistband on this, and harem pants are great in the log and look layer as a bottom layer. So that's the hope for that. Let's see what. Oh, here's another piece that I have found. This is amazing too. I mean, look at that gold in this sheer fabric part here. The gold I'll probably, since it's too fancy for what I would normally wear, I would probably harvest the trim off of this and use it in weaving. I would probably do something with this polyester lining. And then this, I need to double check, but this feels like it's some kind of either linen or silk. And it's, anyway, but this, there's a lot of patterns in Tina Givens. And again, I'll put a link to her down below, where she has a lot of layers that are made out of chiffon that can go over things like a light layer, which I think is really cool. All right, so some of the other things that I find, you know, tablecloths. This is a Battenberg lace tablecloth, which would make a great ruffle on the bottom of a skirt. DMC floss. There's a place near me called the Scrap Exchange that's in Durham, and you wouldn't believe what they have there. It's a great place to find supplies. I find a lot of the cones there. I'll find ephemera, stuff like that. They have, it's amazing what they have, like beads, paints that people get rid of, zippers. Oh my God, the zippers and buttons. There's so many zippers and buttons you can find there. But this was a little box of 12 skeins of DMC floss. And when I do this piecing together, a lot of times what I like to do is put some decorative stitching on top, kind of like you would see it. Alabama Shannon does the same thing, as does India Flint. And those two designers totally inspire a lot of what I do. So I'll put links to them below too. Anyway, so this is the same. I had gotten, these were $5 a piece. So $5 for 12 skeins of brand new, fresh DMC floss, pearl cotton, which is great because if it's pearl cotton, then it's going to dye really well. So if I do that over dyeing that I like to do to kind of merge all of the different fabrics together and give it kind of a unity, then this is going to dye alongside it. Oh, here's another cone that I got recently. And I mean, it's got like some stains on the top, and it's got some stains and it's discolored, but I'm telling you, even if I just cut wads of it and put it into the weaving as a mess, and then it becomes a texture that hangs down. So I get tons of this type of stuff and use that in the art weaving. I also, here's tons of fabric. I mean, elastic. They had all kinds of elastic. And that's really good for, like I said, if I'm converting and making pants, because why not? I mean, here's some big wide elastic. This is, I guess that's 3-inch wide elastic for $1. There's, you know, enough for a couple of projects, I think. So yeah, that. And then they had this really unusual, gigantic elastic, like scary big elastic. And I don't know, but I thought it was fun. Maybe I can make a big corset. You know, what if it was, where's my piece? Hold on. Yeah, I do one end here and one end here. And then I've got, oh, anyway, just a thought. But this was actually there was a box of free stuff outside. So I got this stuff for free because nobody knows what to do with it. But I do. I'll figure it out. I wish I had a scrap exchange in Kentucky. I know the scrap exchange is awesome. But there's some places. I know that my friend Ramsey, when she was in town a couple of weeks ago, I took her to the scrap exchange because she does mixed media art and she uses a lot of ephemera, and that's like the ephemera haven. So I took her there, and she said that they have a place like that in San Francisco. So I'm not sure what it's called. Anyway, more elastic. Okay, so this, I love this. This was a little package that it came. This is how it came. It was put together like this. All right, so in this thing, this is interesting. I've got this little baby rickrack, which if it's not sewn onto an upcycle project, this is amazing as a texture and weaving. Same with, let's see, I love it when they get these packages like this because it's like unearthing like a little treasure. So here's a little piece. It's, I don't know. But it could be, I need a little patch somewhere and I'll dye it and use it as a patch, which is something great. I mean, even if you have like a piece that's sewn out of all one fabric, if you create a little fiber art patch, maybe there's a little piece of weaving on here and it would be like the accent here or on the back. You know how a lot of times on dresses they'll have like just the patch on the back, and do some kind of mixed media, something beautiful, quickie thing. Here's some ribbon. Of course, that's going to be awesome in the weaving. Same here. This is like a cotton not bias tape, but like some kind of cottony, ribbony thing. This this interesting string. It feels natural. Feels like some kind of like maybe a flax string. I don't know, hemp. Anyway, this is great. And then I've got this. This was this was really cool. This would look good in some weaving. I mean, you can see this piece here. You can see where I used lace, as the accent drape here. This would be nice. But this also has like elastic in here. So I don't know. We'll see what it can be used as, but it's a good supply. And I've got a little tiny bit of grosgrain ribbon and a little tiny bit of, this is really cool. This lacy kind of rose thing going on. That's really cool. I mean, so many uses for that. Like I said, if it doesn't get stitched onto an upcycle piece, then it probably will go into the weaving because that would look really good. The dots, it's a different texture, for something like that. All right. Tulle, lots of tulle. And it's not really, well, this piece is kind of not bad. This piece is a little bigger than others, but I've got, let's see if I can find that big old wad of tulle. I found this huge wad of tulle. And now, granted, it's probably not big enough to do a damn thing with other than to let it be a wad of tulle, like a line of a wad of tulle in the weaving. So this is a good texture. I also, there is somebody that is making some kind of leather good, and they do this punch out. So what I like to do, now this piece is already kind of long, but what I like to do is to cut it down into thinner pieces. There's some whoop-de-doo on that. Into thinner pieces, and you can see where I have some of it. And it becomes, if I cut it down this way, and then cut it down this way, then that makes it, this piece, 3 times as long as it was and a lot skinnier with little things hanging off of it. So that makes a really good piece of like yarn. So I've got a ton of that because somebody's doing some manufacturing of the pieces. But then I also found this wonderful little strip of white pony. So that's going in. I mean, that would even look good in my white piece over here, right? All right. Let's see what else we got. My goodie bag. I've got more. Somebody had brought a bunch of bridal stuff. And granted, some of this is nylon-y. It's sparkly. I'm like a magpie. This was a, I don't know, this was like in with some of the other stuff I had. And then this feels not as nylon-y. The embroidery does, and I know the netting's probably nylon-y, but this is beautiful. That would look good in there. That would look good sewn onto something. So again, we'll see what happens with that. If you hear a noise, they're fixing the sprinklers outside, and that's interesting. It's like, oh wow, okay. So yeah, if you hear a weird noise, that's them fixing the sprinklers, and it's about to water the windows, it looks like. Great. Oh, interesting. Okay. I also found this awl, which I'll use in book binding. More elastic, but this elastic is great haul. I know, right? I mean, this haul, now this was over a couple of trips in a couple of different thrift stores. This is like that fold over elastic. This is great for waistbands. And I know Alabama, Natalie Shannon, the Alabama Shannon book, for their A-line skirt, they use fold over elastic on the waistbands. So I thought this was great. Although this color is kind of, I don't know what I would, the color, but you know, if you're using the fold over elastic, it's probably not something that is going to be where you would see the waistline anyway. It probably would be underneath something. So I figured it didn't really matter. I also have, oh, this stuff is interesting. Okay, so there was a metric ton of these strips of cotton. I mean, that's all it is, like torn strips of cotton. It almost looks like bandages, but it's, you know, really soft cotton. So I bought a bunch of it. I mean, it's all in white and off-white, but it's all this cotton. And what I can do, it's either going to look great as a texture again in the weaving, or I can just run, you know, some stitches down through it and gather it, and it can be, it's ruffles. And I would just leave the edges raw and just let it be almost like that shabby chic kind of look. You know, they're now calling that shabby chic login look, magnolia pearl kind of stuff. I mean, they're kind of calling that cottage core, and I'm on the fence about how I feel about that. So anyway, so yeah, I've got a whole bag of those ruffles. What else? Oh, this, I live for finding this stuff. This is a linen napkin, and it's worn and it's stained, but I don't care. I don't care. I mean, I'll piece it together, and then all of a sudden I have a big bunch of linen fabric with some great cutout designs, kind of in, I'm going to undress on YouTube, kind of in the same way that this one's made. And I didn't make this. This is a Johnny Was, but in the same vein, I can do that with what I find. And I've been collecting this type of stuff for 5 years. And I have a stack of linen, and I have a stack of like batiste cotton, and then a stack of just regular cotton stuff. Here's a whole set I found. And this, I feel like it's a light linen. I mean, you can kind of see the weave on it. But I found a whole stack of these. So I grabbed what I could, and it was one of those things where you shove it in a bag and pay like $3 for the bag. So I found that. I found another piece of cotton that has some stains on it, but that's okay if I'm over dyeing. I found a piece of muslin, which either I'll make into some patches or use it as some fabric on a piece. I found this piece of linen. You can tell somebody was doing an upcycle project, but this is great. Um, I like a lot of indigo dyeing, and I probably will like over dye this with an indigo to make it kind of uh so it would kind of match all the other stuff. It might be a dark place, so I might cut it into strips, or again, like even the strip part here, just take that off and throw it in the weaving. I found a gauzy receiving blanket. So I love this kind of double gauze type thing, fabric. So I'll iron that up and use that fabric in something. This is another piece of linen. Again, it's a weird, odd little scrap of linen. But piecing together the fabric, there's India Flint, who I've mentioned, she does like all the eco dyeing. She takes like little bits of fabric like this, and she'll mix her fabrics, but she tends towards silk and linen, and she'll hand stitch together with like stuff like this and some decorative stitching, and just stitch the little pieces until she gets a bigger piece of fabric, and then she'll use that to make a garment. She has some classes. I'll put a link to her down below. I was rewatching her class on piecing, and she was piecing together just tiny bits of fabric, and it's a great like slow stitch thing you can do. Um, for that matter, you could take some of your finer hand spun, and do some couching around in there, and add some designs if you wanted to do something. Maybe like you take this piece and you do some couching with your hand spun, and that would make a really cool um cool textile that would be great to then turn into a garment, or heck, frame it. I don't know. All right, more elastic, more little pieces of leather. Now this was clearly like a leather sample, and it's got some marks on it, but what I probably will do is cut this, and I've got a like a cricket color, the silhouette cricket type of stuff. And I've got the one that'll cut leather. So what I'll probably do is either come out with a little flower design, or even just cut this into little squares and punch holes in there. And I can thread that onto, even one of the strings. And there's a little whoop-de-doo that I can spin into the yarn or ply with. So there's a thought for that. Or it becomes a patch, add it with some other textile, upcycle textile, and you've got like a fiber collage patchy type thing, right? So anyway, fun stuff. I found this freaking tablecloth, which is again this gorgeous sheer thing, but I thought that this would be beautiful as like the edge on a sheer over piece, like a sheer t-shirt that you would wear over a slip dress or something. Yeah. Anyway, playing with that. It does have some holes in it. Let's see, here's a hole right here. Is that it? No. Wait. There's a hole. But then that's where your visible mending comes in. I could accentuate the hole by doing like a little buttonhole stitch around it with some embroidery, to make it look like a little star, a little flower. So, just working with some visible mending, and it kind of adds character to these pieces, that quirkiness. Oh, all right. Another little delicate handkerchief, beautiful, beautiful little batiste fabric, some lace that's kind of fallen apart, but there's something beautiful about the shabbiness of it. So that, we're getting to the end of the bag, I swear. And this is a duvet, like a twin size duvet. This cotton sheet fabric, I think it would make a really cute like summer dress. So I'm gonna probably just use that, and I probably won't over dye it. I kind of like the color, but if I do, I'd probably do some kind of like maybe not even an ice dye. I would probably do some kind of mottled dye um with that. And then I've got, this is my favorite piece. This was my, I love all this stuff, but this was my absolute favorite piece. This weird piece of fabric. It's cottony and it's kind of gauzy on the back, and it has this texture that's made by these strings. And I just find it fascinating, absolutely fascinating. So what I would love to do, and I can't decide if I think I'm going to do this side on the outside and do like I was talking and put it as a panel for a shirt or a smock, and then do some kind of stitching, decorative stitching down in this area here. And I even like this kind of raggy part here. I probably will just sew it here and leave that raggy part on the edge if I can find a way to re-accentuate that raggy on the bottom. And maybe it's that I weave a tiny bit of like stringy type something, and a long skinny strip, and add it to the bottom, of the smock. Or I could do it around the sleeves or something. Anyway, so I love this piece of just, I don't even know what it is. I don't even know what it was. So there it is. That's my scrap haul. That's the type of stuff I look for at the thrift stores. Again, I am lucky enough to have a scrap exchange here, which tends to gather all the weird bits that people might use in some really super creative upcycling. But I also find a lot of this stuff, like the Indian textiles, a lot of the sheets, and kitchen stuff, even some of the little scraps of fabric and sewing notions. Those things I find in the thrift store a lot. There's also, if you can find a good jewelry section. The Goodwills, a lot of times they put that in the cases. It's not great. Sometimes they put, some of the people put jewelry kind of in a box or something. Now, one time I went to the Durham Rescue Mission, and they had this shoebox full of like old jewelry. There was all kinds of jewelry, just cheap, nothing super fancy, but just all kinds of different jewelry. And it was a tangled hot mess. And they just had the box sitting out there. And I just went up to the manager and I said, "How much for this box?" And he said, $20. And I got tons of beads and bits and lots of interesting things that can be either strung up and spun into the yarn, or that can be strung up and added to the weaving. So that was great. Even things like chains, like metal chains, is interesting to put into the weaving. Even like, can you imagine uh like a chain, even like a bronze chain, something really delicate or something really open, hanging with this drape right here. So there's the possibilities are just endless. I mean, if you go into the clothing, a lot of times if I go, I can even go into and look at something that's like, would be way too small for me. But if the fabric's great, or if it has a great trim, then I might get it just to cut it up and put it into the weaving. Just like, I know it's a little scandalous that I might want to cut up that beautiful Indian suit. But again, I don't even think it would fit over one of my thighs. But I would take like the actual really pretty pieces and find a way to applique that stuff onto another piece, and then take the plainer fabrics and use it as I would a sari silk. So there you have it. 45 minutes of my thrift haul. Um, so that's what I've been working on. That getting sourcing stuff like that. Uh, don't get me wrong, I love getting some good yarn for some regular yarn for the art weaving, but I usually use that to contrast against some of the more interesting textures. And it's fun. It turns into like something really fun to go into the thrift store because then you'll see ordinary things and you'll start to think, if something catches your eye, but it's not in a form that you think art weaving, then is there a way that you can deconstruct it and use it for the art weaving? So, and usually at, the thrift stores, the prices are reasonable enough to where you don't feel bad about cutting things up. So, anyway, there you have it. I'll keep you posted on all the things. And that's what we have today. So, again, if you didn't get the newsletter, as I mentioned, the YouTube has I have not reached the threshold as of this month for monetization. So memberships are on hold until I can figure out how to put all of that onto my website. And tech stuff for me is like a wormhole. So I'm hoping it'll be by this summer, but we'll see. We'll see how long it takes me to figure it out, because when I think I have it down, then all of a sudden, oh look, there's another rabbit hole. So anyway, but I'll be working on getting memberships. But if you want, hit me back, send me an email, let me know. Is there anything in particular you want for a membership? I was thinking even things like, what if we did a project challenge? Wouldn't that be fun? Or is it just something where you just want to just have a little like stitch and bitch online? So anyway, if you have ideas, hit me back. I would love to know what you think. Otherwise, I'm going to sign off and head to the clay studio because I'm making some more hangers and frames to put in the shop for you guys. And anyway, I hope you have a good weekend. It's been fun. I will talk to you later.